Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Anarchy for Freedom, India's home for conspiracy research and free thinking. Today we are joined by a very special guest with us who has done a lot of work over the years, for the last 10 years, on the subject of electromagnetic fields and how they impact the health, what are the adverse outcomes or impacts of electromagnetic fields on us. And personally, for me, my research into EMFs and 5G now has been going on for quite some time, and now 5G upcoming as well has kind of speeded up the urgency and the importance that we need to give to the subject. So I was looking around in India to see who I could find who would basically be able to talk about this issue, because when we look towards the west, there are a lot of prominent people who are speaking about this issue, but in India I was hard faced to find someone like that. And finally, during the course of my research, I came across Mr. Prakash Munshi, who, despite his age, has is a very committed, concerned citizen when it comes to this subject, and he has done a tremendous amount of fantastic work over the years towards educating people about the risks associated with electromagnetic fields, as well as taking the movement of on the ground as well, and helping some people when it's come to the matter of towers being placed outside their houses. So I'd just like to give a formal introduction to Mr. Munshi. Mr. Munshi, a retired concerned citizen, has been working together with Srimati Juhi Chawla Mehta as a member of an initiative, Citizens for Tomorrow, since 2011, creating awareness of the health hazards due to electromagnetic fields, radiation from mobile towers antennae. Citizens for Tomorrow have done an excellent job in creating awareness of EMFR, EMF radiation in India throughout presentations at residential buildings, Rotary clubs, Lions Club, schools, and colleges. So, Mr. Munshi, thank you so much for coming on and doing this for me. I really appreciate that you took the time
Thank
out.
you for inviting me on
My
your
pleasure.
both your websites. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So maybe you could just start off with telling the audience your background, where you're coming from, what really got you driven into the subject of going down the rabbit hole of researching electromagnetic fields, and what made you enter the space to begin with. So you can just tell viewers about your background and what woke you up basically to this problem.
Okay. I worked basically for 23 years with Bayer India, and I was also associated for another 10 years with a UK company as managing director, Bell Packaging India Limited. And after that, for the last 10 years, I have been associated with my very friendly neighbor, Juhi Chawla, who lives just 5 meters, 10 meters away from my house. How it started was, actually, she started in 2010 because there were 14 towers right opposite to our both residences. Since I am on the first floor, I could not see them, but she is on the 5th floor and 6th floor, so she could see them. And her husband told her one day that this is not right. Then she started going around. She got a person to check her radiation levels in her house from Gurgaon after great searching, and found that these radiation levels were very high. Then she wrote to the state government, she wrote to the central government, she ran around from door to door, but there was no response. Then came her announcement in Hindustan Times, and we had our very friendly journalist, Saili Udas Mankikar, and she mentioned, well, that Juhi Chawla has given up her mission to try and get these towers removed. This is the time where my daughter, Bhavna, she came and told me, Daddy, you have just come back from your holidays. Please get in touch with Juhi and do something for the society. So I was too glad that I got something to do after my retirement. So immediately I contacted Juhi, and she sent me 5-10 files, as to what she had done. And then I said, let me do it in my way, and we will do a good job and we'll do it fast. Believe it or not, we got the towers removed in 4 months after I contacted Juhi. We contacted the guest house manager. We went to the PWD, who normally grant the permissions. And we found afterwards, after all this, what do you call it, interrogative journalism, investigative journalism, that it was basically only one tower was approved by the government and not all 14. So what happened? I went to the PWD, filed an RTI. I filed an RTI with the chief secretary and got a reply. The PWD people told me, Mr. Munshi, we can give you a letter, but just withdraw the RTI. I said, don't worry about the RTI, just give me the letter first. So they gave me a letter saying that only one is approved and all 13 are illegal, and we are serving a notice on to these people to remove the towers immediately. That was the starting point. And Juhi was very, very happy, and she did not believe it. We had also put up banners all along the ridge road to create awareness, and that also helped us. We must thank Saili Udas Mankikar. We must thank all the media, the print media, the electronic media, and they have really done the trick. And without their help, the media help, I would not have achieved, or Juhi would not have achieved, or Citizens for Tomorrow would not have achieved what we have achieved in terms of creating the awareness. We have done a great job also with creating awareness amongst the government to the harm. We had received support from the previous government. We had received support from the DOT at that time. The gates were open for us. And then we also, Juhi Chawla, Veena Singhal, and myself were the three representatives representing the 1.3 billion people at the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology. Believe it or not, we were so shocked that after the hearing, each and every MP who were present for the hearing came and congratulated us individually, telling us that you have opened our eyes. This is in brief how we started.
Wow, that's quite a journey. And I guess if I just had to ask you one question, after all the work that you have done, and personally, obviously, your efforts got the towers, the illegal towers removed opposite yours and Juhi's place. But in terms of, countrywide awareness as well as being able to, push back or take some kind of action against these towers that are being put up, has there been any significant progress in your perspective in that regard?
You see, what happened after we created this big awareness on the day when the towers were removed, what happened was there's normally a press meeting on Wednesday at the Sahyadri Guest House. On Thursday, we had put up banners all along the street, about 7, 8 buildings. We put up about 15 banners. And that created awareness, and that, or anybody visiting the Sahyadri Guest House, local or international, got awareness. The next week, when the media people came for the press meeting, they came across the street and insisted on having a press meeting with Juhi and myself. Lo and behold, in the evening, we had about 30, 40 media people on the lawns of Veer Bhavan, where Juhi resides. And since that day, it spread like fire. Then what happened is people tried to get into Google and somehow contacted us, and we had to help them. If you could remove it in front of your building, why can't you remove from ours? That was the message which we got. And we did that, and for that cause, we worked 24/7. We were also supported by the government in getting some regulations done, for which we are thankful to the previous government and DOT about the distance from the residences where they should install, about the reduction in the EMF radiation norms, which I will come to later.
All right, great.
So we have visited Ahmedabad, we have visited Delhi, we have visited Jaipur, we have visited Bhopal, we have visited Hyderabad, we have visited all over the country at their invitation or on our own, with support of certain organizations in these cities to create these awareness.
Great. That sounds really good. And I guess at this point now we can just start with showing the viewers a couple of relevant clips that you compiled together, which really gives a fix on the Indian perspective as to what the media people and as well as like prominent people in Bollywood and others think about this issue. So should we proceed to that?
1 minute. Yeah. I would also like to refer here, before you start the Bollywood clips, that I was interviewed by Environmental Health Trust, Deborah Davis and Theo in Washington, D.C., and that video is also available on YouTube. We have to thank also Dr. Deborah Davis and Mr. Darius Lezinski for having accepted our invitation and come to India and went around the country also supporting our awareness programs. Thank you. Now you can start.
Yeah, I didn't know about that because I have a lot of respect for Deborah Davis and the work she's done. I've followed it over the years, so it's interesting to know that she was down and she was doing work over here.
And Dr. Darius Lezinski, for your information, Johan, was a member of the World Health Organization IARC team, which has classified EMF radiation under Group 2B, possibly carcinogenic. So we got the right people at the right time, but the government changed.
All right, I will start with the videos now. That should be interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum.
Hi.
Assalamualaikum.
Nice car.
Something is breaking so my god. Oh no cell phone, no cell phone.
क्यों?
Cell phone से मधुमक्खियां मर जाती.
मधु? बीज.
Cell phone के सिग्नल से मधुमक्खियां अपने घर का रास्ता भूल जाती और मर जाती. They die. ये अच्छा नहीं, क्योंकि अल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन ने कहा है.
अल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन ने apparently कहा है.
Apparently
कि अगर दुनिया की सारी मधुमक्खियां मर गई, तो उसके ठीक 4 साल बाद सारे आदमी मर जाएंगे.
That's right. That's right. सारे आदमी मर जाएंगे. सारे आदमी मर जाएंगे.
No cell phone बाबा.
Hey, see, sparrow, chimney,
When you putting it oops, just next.
और ये विश्व भर में जहाँ कहीं भी किसी इमारत में दरार देखते हैं, वहां जाकर के अपना घोंसला बनाते हैं.
और एक दर्द की बात है सर, जब से ये मोबाइल के टावर्स आए हैं, इनकी संख्या गिनी चुनी रह गई है.
क्यों?
कि वो रेंज में आ जाती है और मर रही है सर फटाफट. कहाँ चिमनियाँ दिख रही है आप लोगों को?
जी.
उनकी आवाज ही बंद हो गई है मोबाइल की वजह से.
जी. तो
मैं आपने जो मेंशन किया था मोबाइल फोन के यूज से जो थर्मल इफेक्ट है, मैं उसकी बात करें जो हम लोग आज की डेट में देख रहे हैं. मैं अपने यंग व्यूअर्स को बताना चाहूंगी, मैं इनफर्टिलिटी एक्सपर्ट हूँ. आज की डेट में मेल इनफर्टिलिटी के प्रॉब्लम 40% है. अगर हमारे पास में इनफर्टाइल कपल आता है, 40% केसेस में मेल पार्टनर इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल. And there are various proven studies with the कांस्टेंट यूज ऑफ मोबाइल फोन आपका स्पर्म काउंट ड्रॉप करता है, उसकी क्वालिटी ड्रॉप करती है, एंड जो उसकी फर्टिलाइज करने की कैपेसिटी स्पर्म की ड्रॉप करती है, एंड दिस हैज बीन प्रूवन बाय वेरियस स्टडीज। तो मैं इन लोगों को उसके बारे में
वो स्टडीज बताइए जिन्होंने ये प्रूव किया है कि ऐसा होता है।
मैम ऐसी कई सारी स्टडीज हैं, आप लोग ये ग्लोबल स्टडीज आप लोग सर्च कर सकते हैं डाल के,
डॉक्टर डेविड डेविस के वेबसाइट में भी हैं।
There are various studies and which is proven कि this is
और दूसरी बात है कि last September was the month for awareness of PCOS and PCOD। अपने जो लेडीज हैं जो जीन्स में यहाँ रखते हैं, बैक पॉकेट में रखते हैं और फोन ऑन रहता है, उससे there has been an exponential increase in Bombay of PCOS and PCOD, that is called polycystic ovarian disease। This is only to create awareness to you all।
जी मैं आपकी बात से सहमत हूँ, क्योंकि मैं अपनी क्लिनिकल प्रैक्टिस में सब चीजें देख रही हूँ। आई डोंट हैव एनी स्टडीज टू प्रूव माय सेल्फ, बट हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि स्पर्म काउंट ड्रॉप कर रहा है, एंड जैसे ही हम लोग उनको बताते हैं कि आप मोबाइल फोन अपने ट्राउजर्स की पॉकेट से रिमूव करिए, रात में सोते टाइम अपने कमरे से बाहर रखिए, इट इज नॉट अर्जेंट, एंड मिनिमल यूज करिए, तो आपके हम लोग जब उनको कुछ महीनों के बाद एनालाइज करते हैं, देयर इज डेफिनेटली ड्रास्टिक इंप्रूवमेंट इन द क्वालिटी। एंड पीसीओ की आपने बात की, पीसीओ केसेस के आजकल 30% लड़कियों को पीसीओडी होता है। तो अभी राइट नाउ इसकी प्रूवन स्टडीज नहीं है कि मोबाइल फोन के यूज से होता है, बट आई वुड बी सरप्राइज्ड अगर आफ्टर 10 years somebody tells me it was because of mobile phone।
I started believing in this when I actually started seeing patients, right? Keeping all the literature aside, first-hand information with people in front actually suffering was the clue to going to them. Yesterday I had a boy who came, then we did his MRI scan. He felt something is abnormal after using the phone for long periods. In fact, I'll tell you, last week I can tell you with specificity. There is one minister in Maharashtra. His PA had come. And he told me that whole day he's on the phone. Correct. Whole day, because he said all my work is on the phone. Correct. Whole day I'm on the phone. And both sides, now he finds his hearing down. So we got his audiogram done. This was last week. And his hearing is down around 40%. So I have told him to use the landline as far as possible and started him on steroids straight away. I mean, there was no other option left. Classical example is that people using it on one side are getting it, then they switch over to the other side and they get the same symptom on the other side. The Gujarati gentleman was there who came and he was using it on one side and his hearing went down. Then he started using it on the other ear. And on the other ear he started developing tinnitus and then all symptoms. He came. So I said, when one side you had a problem, why did you stop? Why did you use it on the other side? The answer was, "Hare paase unlimited talk time."
How are the tumors caused because of this? Sure.
Actually, one of these Australian reports are there that acoustic neuromas, the incidence is 50% higher in those who are using cell phones for a longer period. And these acoustic neuromas are actually from the auditory nerve, which is the 8th nerve, and the covering of the nerve. When they get stimulated repeatedly, probably because of the heat itself, they lead to these tumors, which are called as acoustic neuromas. So this heat could be a precursor to an abnormal growth, which we call a cancer or tumor. Yes, exactly.
Pick up an organ system and dysfunctions. Think of the eye pains, blurring of vision, not being able to see in the night. Ear pains, difficulty of hearing, ringing in the ears, inequality of hearing on both the sides, not being able to understand the direction of sound, inability to sleep properly, easy fatigability, memory disturbances. You talk about whatever you want. These are 3 pictures which have been taken from 3 different studies. Now they look like Halley's comets. But if we look at any of these pictures, the first one is the DNA staining, which is unexposed to anything, it is completely healthy. The second one in each picture is after exposure to X-rays or the gamma radiations, where you actually see the broken tails where the DNA is fragmented. The last picture is somewhere simple cell phone radiation exposure for 2 hours to 24 hours. have produced a similar change, which shows the DNA is breaking. This is one more experiment which was carried out in Russia. They worked on rats. They sacrificed normal rats and studied the brain. They exposed the rats to radiation for X duration at various intervals, and they studied the brain again. And the multiple circles which you see in the lower brain are the actual leakage sites where the radiation had damaged the blood-brain barrier in the rat brain.
Start with Rajan Matthews. You represent the Cellular Operators Association of India. And the last time I had you on this show many years ago, I asked you if you lived in a house and there was a cell phone tower opposite you at a height, would you be scared?
Absolutely not. I, in fact, have a cell tower not too far away.
How far? How far?
Probably half a kilometer away from where I am. I have.
That's not the same thing as looking out of your window and having.
Dr. Mahajan, would you live near a tower?
No, just a minute. I was going to mention that I prefer staying away.
You want to
All right, Mr. Munshi, do you have any comments about the videos that we just played?
What we did was to make these clips from the various Bollywood films and TV shows to try and make it interesting for the common man who understands only this. If I go around talking in English, nobody's going to listen to me. But these clips really helped us in creating awareness. Secondly, we went personally to doctors like Dr. Divya Prabhat and Dr. Lokhande and others and did our own personal interviews. We also attended the presentations of Dr. Ashish Mehta and also Dr. Saxena, who was with me in the Rajya Sabha TV program. I would like to once again personally thank Dr. Saxena, Dr. Divya Prabhat, and Dr. Ashish Mehta for their guidance and support. I would just take 2 minutes to tell you all that although most of us feel like we can't live without our mobile phones, they have not been in existence for very long. Very little research has been done by the industry to prove that the technology is not going to cause any harm to us. Now, it's a money spinner for the industry at our costs, as when it comes for payment of spectrum, overuse and interest, they raise their hands. Why? They should also pay up the government. I will come to that later. Why did the government permit introduction of this technology without sufficient research undertaken by the cellular industry to prove that there is no harm? They should not have relied on people like IC and IRP who do not know anything about radiation. They are all captured organizations. Why did they? Now, if the pharmaceutical industry has to introduce a new pharmaceutical, how much time it is taking to get that sample approved or the pharmaceutical approved? What is happening to the COVID vaccine, for example? The COVID vaccine is not being introduced without running the trials. Why EMF radiation was introduced without any tests? Why is 5G being propagated without any test on the humans? What will happen to us? What is the need for 5G? Nobody is analyzing it. These are all captured organizations. They all want to make money, and we, the citizens of the world, are treated like guinea pigs or lab rats.
Definitely. That's something I wholeheartedly agree with. And you mentioned the COVID vaccine. So, I mean, although I get your point that at least it's going through some kind of trials, but even those trials, I mean, if you just see how long vaccine trials take, that's very negligible compared to, how much time this COVID vaccine is taking, which is going to be months, compared to the fastest vaccine that was ever developed, which was mumps, which took 4 years. So yeah, I mean, all across the spectrum, we are seeing captured organizations that are influencing our health policy. And even through your research into electromagnetic fields, you've experienced the same thing as well. That is these same captured organizations that are again having an impact on our lives and, how these towers are being put up and the regulations and everything. So I guess at this point, we can move on to the presentation, lovely presentation that you prepared, which can, we'll go into some specific concerns that citizens obviously would have with respect to electromagnetic fields, and maybe you can help alleviate some of those concerns. Do you want anything to say before we start?
Yeah. You see, our own Lokmanya Tilak has said, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. I think we all should say that the right to health is our fundamental right and we shall have it. And we can now move to the presentation, but I would like to share with you all what does the World Health Organization define health as. It states, I quote, state of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely absence of disease or infirmity. The right to health is my fundamental right and I shall have it.
Definitely.
We can now move to the presentation.
I like the spirit. We are all sovereign beings and we own our bodies, so we should have full control over our health and the impacts that happen to our health as well.
Before you start, I have forgotten to thank my teammate Nilima Shirotkar Basale, who has helped me in preparing this presentation, and of course Juhi Chawla, who has supported me throughout to when I started making this presentation. Thank you.
Yes, my thanks goes out to both of them, and especially Juhi, because I have a lot of respect, especially when celebrities and influential people come out and put their neck on the line and support a good cause, regardless of the consequences that will bring them. So my shout out to Juhi as well. And I guess we could just start out with first question, which can give some historical context. Like you were saying that people think cell phones are so important today, but it's just been a snippet of time compared to how long we've been on the planet that we've started to use these things. So when was the first cell phone operational in the world and in India?
You see, the first one was started by Dr. Martin Cooper, general manager at Motorola Communication System. He made the first public mobile phone call in 1973. At that time, the device was 1 kg in weight. Then in 1979, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone launched the world's first cellular network in Japan. While we in India, the first mobile phone network, the first mobile phone telephone service started on non-commercial basis on 15th August 1995 in Delhi, which is just 35 years back, or 25 years back. And that was started again without any research, without any scientific study on the health hazards which would be caused to citizens. And I know many friends and citizens who have died because of this radiation. And after that incidents, the cellular industry has removed these towers from their opposite buildings. Why couldn't they think properly? They want to stay 500 meters away from the towers and they want to install it just outside the windows of my fellow citizens. This is not fair. And this they can do only with a nexus with the government, I'm sad to say.
Definitely. There's a lot of money that's spent on lobbying efforts. Like I've seen some statistics where compared to how much the pharmaceutical industry spends on lobbying, the telecommunications industry spends like 10 to or multiple times more than that in order to influence policy and stuff. So it totally makes sense that something like this would be brought in, without any kind of proper safety study, robust safety studies, because of the industry influencing the government and its policy. So how do cell phones really work, Mr. Munshi? Can you enlighten us a bit about that?
Yeah, that I'm showing in the next slide. If I want to phone, say, Johan, I dial the number, it goes to the nearest mobile tower, and then it goes to a base tower station, and from the base tower station, it goes to the antenna close to Johan's house, and then it rings your phone. All this is done at the speed of light. It's just amazing technology, but we have to take precautions. Even if I phone up my son in Australia, it takes just as much time as I would ring up my neighbor Juhi.
Definitely, the technology obviously has brought us a lot of benefit and ease of use in terms of being able to reach anyone in the world at any time. But of course, all new inventions come with the downsides as well. And this issue has been such that the whole focus, at least from my perspective, where I'm sitting and what I've seen the public discourse where it's at, it's been around the benefits of this technology, and there's been very little discourse around the downsides because of the industry. So, I mean, I've heard this said that 5G is just an upgrade in the normal 1G, 2G, 3G that we've had. We can touch on 5G a little bit later. But what are the different cellular phone technologies, and how have they evolved over the years?
You see, it has grown over time. The first one was just voice. It was analog, 1G. Then we got 2G, where we got voice and data. And then came voice and data at a higher speed, which became 3G. And then 4G came, 3G with live streaming of videos at much higher speeds. And this has done a tremendous harm to our citizens and their children, leave alone the rich and mighty. I am talking here of the poor people in whom the government calls we are empowering the poor. But empowering the poor by making them see videos and porn on the streets, is that empowering the citizens, empowering the poor? No way. And we have to take precautions. There have to be regulations to control all this nonsense. And for 5G, I would like to say, let us wait. We will talk about it later in later slides.
Definitely. And, this whole thing is sold as, obviously, like you mentioned, empowering the poor and stuff. But the whole focus is put on the benefits they're getting with respect to the technology, and the downsides with respect to how it impacts the health, how it will increase their medical costs, the surveillance implications. Like, these governments aren't benevolent that they're just handing out, like if you've seen certain states, they're just handing out mobile phones to people. At least in, I think Tamil Nadu, Chandrababu Naidu had done that. He'd given mobile phones to poor people. So there are implications. Andhra Pradesh, sorry. So there are implications with respect to like surveillance as well as larger geopolitical agendas as well that these things are done for. So just a basic thing that we should address firstly is, what exactly is EMF radiation? How would you define it, just for the layperson who doesn't know anything about it?
EMF radiation can be defined as radiation is the emission or transmission of energy in the form of waves or particles through space or a material medium. Electric fields are created by difference in voltage. The higher the voltage, the stronger will be the resultant field. Magnetic fields are created when electric current flows. The greater the current, the stronger the magnetic field. An electric field which exists even when there is no current flowing. EMF radiation travels at the speed of light.
And we have put up the slide from Mr. Robot, the movie. So, if viewers want to take a second and read that, they'll probably learn something interesting. All right, I'll move on to the next question. So there's a lot of controversy with respect to the idea that EMFs can't potentially damage our health because they don't even have enough energy to be able to influence or knock on the electrons that would cause DNA damage. That's what we are commonly told by the cellular industry repeatedly over the years, and even the lobbyists and all use the same talking points. So is EMF radiation really harmful to our health, like you're saying?
Yes, 100%, 500%. It is the industry which had financed two major studies in United States with Professor Ross Adey and Dr. Henry Lai. They found a correlation between phone use and cancer. These studies showed that mobile phone use, regardless which side of the head it was held against, increased the risk of brain cancer and brain tumor by almost 2.5 times. Some of the leading researchers were contracted by Motorola to carry out some experiments. Two of the world's leading radiation experts reported to the Express that multinational companies tried to influence the result of that research. Now, this is normal. It is happening also in India. Professor Ross Adey, a biologist, had his funding withdrawn by Motorola before completing his research, which showed that mobile affected the number of brain tumors in animals. Dr. Henry Lai, who has been studying the biological effects of electromagnetic fields for 20 years, was asked 3 times to change the findings on how they caused DNA breaks in rats. If DNA breaks can happen in rats, it can happen in us. Both of these scientists have been involved in academic, military, and other research projects through their continuous lives.
Here's Henry Lai's slide.
Now, if you will see, this is the same slide which Dr. Ashish Mehta had shown, that the first slide, second slide, and the third slide. First slide was unexposed control, bundle of DNA. Then the second one was calibration, and DNA breaks are very obvious. The third one is cell phone and microwave exposure for 2 hours at 2.45 gigahertz, searching so-called safe SAR levels. So single and double strand breaks observed in DNA from microwave exposure at levels below the current FCC exposure standard. The current FCC exposure standard is also not correct. It is extremely high, and it is a copy-paste of ICNRP norms which were done without any thinking. We will come to that later. Because when damage to DNA is greater than the rate of DNA repair, there is possibility of retaining mutations and initiating cancer.
And here's a slide about how the different mechanisms and ways through which EMFs harm the health. So do you want to shed some light on this, Mr. Munshi?
Well, a mobile phone affects the whole body. It does not affect only my ear. It affects my ear, it affects my brain, it affects the heart, it affects the nerves, it affects everything. If anybody wants to have a detailed slide, I can send it to them. They have to just send an email. Next.
So what are the frequencies of operation, and what are the Indian standards or norms for these various frequencies that are being used on us today?
You see, we have 900, 1800, and 2100 and above. These are the frequencies in megahertz. But the main thing which the general fellow citizens would like to know is, what is the EMF radiation and how is it measured? It is measured as power density. Power density is calculated in a simple formula. Any person who has done simple arithmetic will understand the gravity of power density. Power density is power output into antenna gain, which is almost a constant, divided by 4 pi r squared. Pi is 22/7 and r is the distance from the antenna to myself. So therefore, objective is to reduce the health hazards. Then DOT should have reduced the power output to 10% or 2 watts and not norms to 10%, because the norms are on paper and we have to have civilized norms for protecting the citizens of India. Yeah.
So here's again like a slide on EMF radiation norms, and you can, we can probably send this presentation as well and the slides to people if anyone is interested in really reviewing them later on.
This one. You see, the Indian government announced the norms in 2008. And they were basically the same copy-paste norms of ICNIRP, which is the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. I'll tell you jokingly what somebody told me about how to expand ICNIRP at a later stage. The ICNIRP norms are extremely high compared to the actual levels of radiation prevailing in various countries. In 2012, September, the radio frequency exposure limits in India were lowered to 10% of the earlier levels, keeping in view the data submitted by, remember, Cellular Operators Association of India and OSPI during presentation made by them to the Interministerial Committee and trend adopted by other developed countries. We as citizens were not involved in the reduction from 4,500 to 450, 9,000 to 900, 10,000 to 1,000. In an NDTV program, we asked the ex-secretary of DOT as to how did you arrive at 10%? Why not 15%? Why not 20%? Why not 5%? He said, well, this is what my people said, and we have followed that, which is not quite correct.
And here are the different countries that have lower emission standards.
Then, as I told you, we were at the Parliamentary Standing Committee. At that Parliamentary Standing Committee, the chairman asked the other DOT people and the government people who had come, are there any other countries in the world which are having norms lower than India? They gave it in writing. Bulgaria, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, and Russia all had power density of 100 milliwatts per square meter, irrespective of the frequency, whether it was 900, 1800, or 2100. While in India, we had 450, 900, and 1000. Therefore, we were almost 5 to 10 times higher than what these 5 countries are. And therefore, we are not the most stringent in the world as what is propagated with lies, lies, and more lies by the industry and the government. Next slide.
I've seen the same, just to comment on that, I've seen the same pattern happen with other areas of research like vaccines as well, because the criteria for doing phase 3 trials in US and developed countries is much higher than it is in India. So often the pharmaceutical companies use these developing countries where the regulations aren't that robust to conduct studies that are much more cheaper for them. Maybe now we can get to the question of how does the radiation pattern of a mobile tower really impact people? How does it travel basically? Does it travel straight or is it all over the place?
That is also a myth. From the antenna, which are, say, like tube lights or in front of you about 3 feet tall, they do not travel in a straight line. They travel in a conical shape, and therefore you have in the nearer to the main beam, this is called the main beam, and near the main beam it is very high. As the distance goes further, it becomes higher, medium and low. So it is if you are in the primary lobe of the beam, the main beam, then we should be cautious and take precautionary action, because up to 500 meters, 300 meters, 50 to 300 meters, the radiation is pretty high. It can also affect people who are staying below the antenna. There are some antennas which are fixed on the side walls of the building. So what happens is that the radiation also goes backwards, as you see. And the people staying in the houses where the antennas are fixed on the side walls, they also have health hazards. Next slide. Now, for those who are interested, you can see the horizontal plane and the vertical plane. So the radiation is maximum in front of and reduces in the other direction. There's radiation is maximum in the main lobe and less in the minor lobe. Now we will show you a case study, what happened in Usha Kiran building at Altamont Road. Carmichael Road, sorry. So Usha Kiran building on Carmichael Road, residents got affected by the main beam which was going from the opposite building, which was the Vijay apartments. And the main thing was the ladies got it first. Why did the ladies get it? Because the ladies stay 24/7 in the house. They are either in the bedroom or drawing room, and the radiation hit them. The gents, they go to the offices and they are also traveling. So there were 6 cases in Usha Kiran, and that opened the eyes of the citizens of Usha Kiran, and they forced Vijay Apartments to remove these antennae. Not only that, they went along the Carmichael Road and got everybody's affidavit that we will not install it. Now, why? That is a story. Because every time you put up an antenna on your house, you get 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees per month per antenna. Now, it might be more in some cases, it might be less in some cases. It depends on the need of the cellular operator's installer. Now, who would not like to have 20 lakhs per year for a society? I would like it too. But what's happening to the building opposite? Who cares? We like to get the money. So everything is follow the money, nothing else. If anybody has seen that movie, Follow the Money, please check it out. So this is what is happening in Bombay and in other cities. The cellular operators and the installation companies are wooing the landlords and cooperative societies with rent, high rent. And then with this high rent, they make their societies with Italian marble, CCTV, and all that as a luxury item. But they don't care for the residents next door or opposite to their house.
So I've seen a couple of videos of you and Juhi ji and I think Irfan Khan as well going to some buildings and helping. So was this the same building that you people were at?
No, this building we did not attack, or we were not aware at that time. We came to know only later on. But we have, Irfan Khan helped us at the time when the Lokhandwala complex people were affected. And he came, joined the meeting, held the banners, held the placards, and addressed the residents that we will support you. It is rather unfortunate that he is no more with us.
I'm sure if he would still be here, he would vehemently oppose what's going to happen with the 5G rollout as well, which is going to come. But
Right.
we get to that. What is now that the whole focus has been on the WHO with respect to them guiding what we're experiencing right now as far as the global guidelines go with the COVID crisis. What is the opinion of the WHO when it comes to EMFs?
You see, WHO has classified EMF radiation as possibly carcinogenic to humans in 2011, when Juhi and myself, we started off our journey. Since then, a lot of water has flown. In Lyon, France, on May 31st, 2011, the WHO and the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified radiofrequency electromagnetic fields as possibly carcinogenic to humans based on an increased risk of glioma, a malignant type of brain cancer. Now, this is what it is. Now, if we come to the next slide, you will see there how many countries have participated and how many scientists were there. And it was a unanimous decision to declare it at that time, on May 31, 2011, that it is under Group 2B. I'll give you another wonderful retaliation by the cellular industry. It was on a NDTV program where the Cellular Operators Association Director General told me, Mr. Munshi, why are you bothered about 2B? Because pickles and coffee are also under 2B. I said, how many bottles of pickles do we eat per day? How many cups of coffee do we drink per day? So there are wrong comparisons, myths propagated, and lies, and nothing but lies are propagated by this industry.
And definitely, I wouldn't even take the WHO's word at face value just with respect to COVID, but I'll not go into that. But just seeing where the money is going, as you said, follow the money. So who's funding the WHO mostly? I mean, Gates is the second largest funder of WHO, and he has a lot of vested interest with respect to a lot of surveillance technologies and the whole telecommunications infrastructure as well. So we also have to be skeptical of these big health bodies around the world.
Johan, it's very interesting to learn that the person from ICNIRP, which is the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, was appointed as the chief of EMF committee in WHO, and all he did was copy-paste whatever he did at ICNIRP in the WHO. So if we come to ICNIRP, what does the Council of Europe say? It is most curious, to say the least, that the applicable official threshold values for limiting the health impact of extremely low frequency electromagnetic fields and high frequency waves were drawn up and proposed to international political organizations, World Health Organization, European Commission, governments all over the world by the ICNIRP, which is an NGO whose origin and structure are none too clear, and which is furthermore suspected of having rather close links with the industries, whose expansion is shaped by recommendations for maximum threshold values for the different frequencies of electromagnetic fields. So here is the link.
And we now have the question of What is the opinion on this radiation issue and health hazard by prominent people? As we see on the slide, you include a slide from one of Narendra Modi's messages as well. So you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, it was our present Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi, who was at that time the Chief Minister of Gujarat. He has very explicitly written the misuse or overuse of electronic and electrical apparatus causes radiation threat not only to the users but the innocents in the ambience. All are being victimized. There is an urgent and very essential need for assimilation of awareness about the hidden danger to the health of the masses. Microwaves and radiation through mobile towers. Listen to it. Microwaves and radiation through mobile towers prove killers to the birds and creatures. Are we not creatures?
And it's just surprising to see how fast they're getting ramped up with this whole 5G rollout, which is expected to come within this year. So we'll touch on the subject of 5G, but just to give some contrast, this was the Prime Minister a couple of years back saying this statement, and now that he's in office, we just see a totally different roadmap ahead of us with respect to how Geo and a couple of other companies are, fast tracking and rolling out this whole 5G infrastructure around us. So what are your opinions?
Johan, you will see that Vodafone Idea, Airtel, what happens to them? It will be Reliance Jio, Vodafone Idea, Airtel, Maro. This is what's going to happen.
We'll see as time will show us, definitely.
Now we come to what DOT had to say in 2011. The Department of Telecom, Government of India, have mentioned in their own precautions advertisements put up all over the country in national dailies at a fantastic cost. Who bore the cost? God knows. It says, if you have a choice, use a landline, into bracket wired phone, not a mobile phone. Why should DOT advertise this if there is no harm? What more proof do we need that using a cell phone is harmful?
Oh, definitely. These are like obvious
we next come
that,
to the
that
manuals of iPhone and BlackBerry. Next slide. You see, iPhone 6 manual says, when you perform repetitive activities such as typing or playing games on iPhone, you may experience occasional discomfort in your hands, arms, wrists, shoulders, neck, or other parts of your body. If you experience discomfort, stop using the iPhone and consult a physician. What does the BlackBerry and iPhone manual says, which nobody must have read? On your phone, you can read it. BlackBerry says, maintain a distance of 0.50 inches, 15 millimeter between your smartphone and your body while the smartphone is transmitting. iPhone says, keep your iPhone 10 millimeter or more away from your body to ensure exposure levels remain at or below the maximum level. Since we discovered this on their phones, they've gradually started reducing the distance from the body from say 25 millimeter now even down to 5 millimeter. On what basis? God knows. There is no scientific study done by them. They are only trying to sell this technology and sell the phones. Next, please. Now, we come to a very important point where insurance companies are not insuring the diseases caused by EMF radiation. We have here their policies. We have here all that they say in that, and they have classified EMF radiation as an air pollutant. I will come to that in greater detail. In the Washington, D.C. 5G Small Cell Roundtable hearing, the outreach director of the California Brain Tumor Association at the time of the testimony, presently he is the president of U.S. Brain Tumor Association, Kevin Motus, has revealed that Verizon themselves classify EMFR as a pollutant emitted by the wireless technology, and diseases caused by these pollutants are not covered by Verizon insurance or AT&T. So, it is they themselves are saying, the mobile phone people are saying that it is an air pollutant and we will not insure it. Then we come to the Lloyds of London and the Swiss Re insurance. Insurance giants exclude paying for illness caused by long-term low-level radiation. Two of the world's largest insurance companies, Lloyds of London and Swiss Re, have recommended to other insurance companies on the advice of Dr. Theodore Litwitz, Professor Emeritus of Physics at the Catholic University of America, to write in exclusion clauses against paying compensation for illnesses caused by continuous long-term low-level radiation. So it is not only high level, it is also low level.
So maybe we can come now to the spectrum auction that we read a lot about and the money that is owed by the cellular industry to the government itself.
I think what my colleague Nilima has made an excellent slide. We have got all the cellular operators who are the major operators today. Tata is not a major one now, but basically it is Bharti Airtel, Vodafone Idea, and Reliance Jio. Total dues which are due from Bharti Airtel are 43,980 crores. Can somebody count that in zeros? What they have paid so far is only rupees 18,004. What is due from them is 26,000 approximately. 26,000 crores. Vodafone Idea, 58,000 total dues. They have paid only today, as on date, only 7,300. So what they have to pay is almost 50,400 crores. Take Tata Tele Services, 16,738 crores. They have paid only 4,000 crores, and balance to be paid is 12,600 crores. Reliance Jio, the best of the two, they don't have any dues because they started late and they are cash rich. So total dues 119,000 crores, 28,000 paid, and balance to be paid is 89 to 90,000 crores. So 16 billion US dollars, 76%, still to be paid US dollars 12 billion. Rupees 1,000 crores were paid only last week by the Vodafone Idea.
So I guess the obvious question that we should ask now is that since these telecom operators anyway owe so much to the government, why are they in such a rush to auction more 5G and 4G spectrum frequencies? What do you think?
I agree with you. Where does this money come from? We must investigate that. It comes from the banks. And who has deposits in the banks? The banks have been loaning them left, right, center. If they borrow the money from the banks and then they raise hands like many other operators who have raised their hands, say, I cannot pay, then whose money is it? Is it my money and my fellow citizens' money? The middle class suffers, not these multi-rich who just vanish away to foreign lands and the government stands watching.
And then for those who are a little familiar with finance, when we put our money in the banks, it's not ours anymore. We are unsecured creditors in the bank's balance sheet. So in case these businessmen can't pay them back and then the bank goes bust, our money is eventually going to be taken away either in the form of bailouts or what's the regulations being laid out now for bail-ins, where the banks can directly confiscate the money from our accounts directly. So these are real concerns that we have to be thinking about, other than EMFs. Obviously, the downstream knock-on effects of these people taking on debt and then not being able to pay it back.
You see, the government has also not planned in terms of malware and protection of going digital. They've gone digital blindly. The malware is not enough. The malware is not sufficient. And who cares for it? Nobody cares. I had a friend who lost 2 crores from a bank scam on digital. So who paid for it? The bank repaid. But finally, who paid? It's the insurance company paid. And that money never came back. So I'll just say a few things on 5G, if you don't mind, Johan.
Yeah.
You see, they expect that the download speeds will go up by 10 to 20 times faster in real world. Do we really need it to watch? They advertise with downstream of a HD movie will take so many seconds compared to so many minutes in 4G. We don't need to download movies and ruin the lives of children. They can see it on TV and theaters under the guidance of their parents. Whoever believes that 5G is a step up from 4G to 5G, like 3G to 4G, is succumbing to a huge error. The person cannot understand that they are succumbing to a huge error. 5G is a gigantic quantum leap in technology and will affect the entire humanity. I'll give you an example what I've got from my friend in Germany. Germany's area is 357,000 square kilometers. Their population is about 8.3 crores. India's area is 3.3 million square kilometers. Population is 135 crores. So Germany's area is about 10% and population is about 6%. A country like Germany will need 800,000 new transmitters for a seamless 5G technology and have 5G strongly radiating mobile communication antennae at approximately every 100 meters or every lamppost. Can you imagine such high radiation will be there just because they want to see into your house as to what are you doing, whether your milk bottle is empty or not, you want to warn them. Is that what is the requirement of the, is it a need? A need, I was told that a want is a need converted into one in any environment. If you need plus environment is a want. Do we want this? Do we need this in our environment? So that is for 5G to have sufficient penetration depth, despite the short wave radiation, it takes up to 1,000-fold increase in transmission of power. Are we really rich in power transmission? Or are we going to have a generator right outside our buildings? And who will pay for the diesel at these rocketing prices? And who will pay for the pollution which is created by the diesel? So do we want 5G cells on every lamppost at every 100 meters? Do we want a huge increase in EMF radiation due to this? As the power density formula says very clearly that the distance will be less, but the power will be much higher than 4G. If 4G is at such high 1,000 milliwatts per square meter, how high will the 5G be? Nobody has yet been able to tell me what will be the power transmission, what will be the frequency, and what is ICNRP's norm for the 5G. at that frequency. Somebody jokingly told me it is not International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. It is called International Commission of No Idea on Radiation Protection.
Yeah, you got up some really concerning points.
We cannot believe ICNRP. They are linked with the industry. They have no scientific idea of the radiation. Getting digital will make cash redundant, and we will have to live with digitalized cards and money. 5G paves the way for a surveillance dictatorship that no one can imagine. There is going to be a massive rise in dissenting voices against 5G. And I appeal to all fellow citizens in India to raise their voices against 5G, whether it is with Atmanirbharta or it is with Huawei. But we don't need 5G. There must be a talk on whether there is a need for 5G or not. And what is 5G going to do to the common man in the villages or the middle class man sitting in the cities with high radiation coming from the 5G antenna? Is this correct?
You got up some really concerning.
Are we ready for this? Johan, are we ready for this? Every lamppost.
It's a very, very big threat, and that's why I've been doing so much work around raising awareness with respect to EMFs, and now all the more with 5G. So I'll just like to highlight some of my understandings as well with respect to 5G. And
just a second, I'll just finish this.
Yeah.
There have been recent developments which indicate mysterious bee mortality, mysterious damages to trees. This study was also done by IIT in Gurgaon, where the radiation, if it was pointed to a field, the field which had radiation turned absolutely barren, while the next door field was growing healthy plants. I must thank Dr. Girish Kumar for this study. There is mysterious blood count alterations, mysterious increase in Alzheimer's and dementia, mysterious increase in electrohypersensitivity, mysterious discrediting of scientific studies, and mysterious behavior of animals. Why should the industry discredit scientific studies which have been peer-reviewed? I cannot understand. They just want to make money, money, money. Just follow the money, as what Deborah Davis says. That's not right. The governments must conduct independent research on the possible health hazards due to 5G, on the environment and humans before doing any trials. Just like the pharmaceutical industry, equate the EMF radiation to the pharmaceutical industry. I would like to tell you all the definition of pollution, which my fellow friend Kevin Motors had indicated at the hearing. One second, please. Sorry. The insurance policy says very clearly about pollution. Thanks to my friends in the United States that I received the original one. It says, pollution means the discharge, dispersal, seepage, migration, or escape of pollutants. These are all exclusions. Pollutants means any solid, liquid, gaseous, or thermal irritant or contaminant, including smoke, vapor, soot, fumes, acid, alkalis, chemicals, artificially produced electric fields, mind you, artificially produced electric fields, magnetic field, electromagnetic field, sound waves, microwaves, and all artificially produced ionizing or non-ionizing radiation and or waste. Waste includes materials to be recycled, reconditioned, or reclaimed. This is a mirror view of what our Honorable Prime Minister has mentioned in that statement, including microwaves. So, should we believe Verizon and AT&T? They have given us in proof, in writing. This is the Verizon and AT&T leaflets, and they say, "Long live your phone," says Assyrian Verizon. And inside they say, "Take care." Yeah. So that is what it is. So we have to live with this technology. We have to fight the 5G, as globally there are many partners with us in Europe, in France, in America, everywhere, and in Canada. So let us join shoulder to shoulder with them to fight the 5G. If we cannot fight COVID, how are we going to fight 5G? And then there are so many studies which are now being shown that 5G has caused spreading of corona. Doesn't mean that it came due to 5G, but it has caused with 5G spreading it. I would like now you to please, since we have to live with this technology, we have to take precautions. And for that, I request you to play what Juhi has said in her video. Thank you, Johan.
Yeah, I'll get to that video, but just before I play it, I'd like to share some of my thoughts on the things you laid out here. So most people see 5G as just a normal upgrade in telecommunications infrastructure, but it's not that. They're using an entirely different class of waves called millimeter waves that have been used in applications by the military and the police in order to scatter crowds in the West, and it gives a burning sensation on the skin of people. So obviously, I'm not suggesting that the normal 5G that will be used, I mean, we can't say for sure, but I would think that the normal 5G use wouldn't be at that spectrum, but it has applications for, causing health issues to people and causing burning sensations on them if it is amplified to a certain extent, those millimeter waves themselves. And there is a...
Therefore, Johan, they have to do total study. They have to do studies.
So, even those...
How it affects my health. I'm more interested in my health. I'm interested in my health. And I don't want a lockdown due to 5G.
No, so one of the interesting things with the lockdown is the telecommunications industry has used it to ramp up the laying out of 5G infrastructure all over the world. And even in India, trials have started as far as I've read, and the spectrum is going to be sold soon as far as I know. But in the West, I've heard so many reports of, we're told to stay indoors and in the lockdown because of this deadly supposed virus. And at the same time, they have 5G towers going up at rocket speeds all over the place at a time when citizens can't come and protest. So they're using this very strategically in order to, bulldoze the layout ahead. And we can see this with
not only 5G, they want to put up 4G antennas also.
Yeah. So all of obviously 5G is now a concern that I'm saying 5G is now a concern that it's coming, but we've always been concerned about 4G and the other things that have gone before that. It's just that it's drastically increasing the amount of impact it'll have on our health. And we can see this. I don't know if you've seen this video by Tom Wheeler. He was the head of the FCC in America.
Yeah.
And he was formerly involved as a lobbyist for the telecommunications industry. And with the way he laid it out in his address in one of the press conferences, I think, he was saying that 5G is something of like a national importance issue, and they would roll it out to the remotest corners of the planet, which is why we're also seeing Gates and like Elon Musk and other people launch these satellites up, which are going to be beaming. They won't be beaming high frequency 5G, but the antenna on the ground are going to be interacting with the satellites that these, billionaires and other people.
Johan, I would like to tell you that there's a lot of criticism of this Indian head of the FCC in USA. There are many legal cases which have been put up by people whom I know in America against the FCC. And so that hearing is still not yet come up. It is not that if I am FCC, I am the dictator. No, you're not the dictator. It is the will of the people and the voice of the people which will take. Similarly, in India, the DOT or the TRAI cannot dictate on us. The voice of people will dictate on this industry, whether it is owned by X, Y, or Z, or anybody, because when the health comes first and the wealth will be afterwards.
Definitely. We need to show them the place as public servants and not our rulers who can just arbitrarily impose whatever they want on us. So I guess at this point, yeah, we've spoken
and they have been elected to the parliament to protect our interests, not to protect the interests of a handful of industrialists. I'm sad to say that. It is an admission.
They've sadly been captured by the industry, which is what happens in most areas. It's not just about EMFs, but even in the health and pharmaceutical and vaccines, the health policy has totally been captured by the same people who are profiting from manufacturing these things. So now that, we've discussed in great detail, and again, I would thank you and your team so much for putting this, very informative presentation together to inform people about the risks and especially giving them an Indian context with respect to what's going on over here as far as the subject of electromagnetic fields are concerned. And now that, viewers might be thinking, okay, what can we do? What steps can we take, at least for now, to protect ourselves? We'll move on to the video that you're suggesting.
1 second. We will need another session to do about the regulations which have been formed by the government and DOT and their app, which is a absolute farce, called Tarang Sanchar Portal. And I have given a presentation to Money Life Foundation. I have to thank them also for their cooperation. So I have that on Tarang Sanchar. I have made a presentation which is available on YouTube. Now we should go to Juhi ji, please.
Yes.
तो आपका ये जो सेल
Can you make it full screen?
रेडियो वेव्स के आधार पर चलता है. आपको लगता होगा आपका सेल फोन जब ऐसे ही पड़ा है, जब आप फोन नहीं कर रहे हैं तो ये काम नहीं कर रहा है. नहीं, ये हर 30-40 सेकंड में एक बार एक रेडियो वेव भेजता है हवा में एंटेना की तरफ. So constantly your phone is working. It is beaming radio waves. either आपके सेल फोन से या आपके सेल फोन एंटेना के पास या करीब रहने से ओवर लॉन्ग टर्म आपकी हेल्थ पर बुरा असर पड़ सकता है. सो जस्ट अ फ्यू डूज एंड डोंट्स, सिंपल लाइफस्टाइल चेंजेस. आप इस एक्सपोजर को आप रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं. सो प्लीज अडॉप्ट दिस. तो क्या आपको आदत है अपना सेल फोन ऑन रखकर अपने सिरहाने पे रखकर सो जाने की? ये बिल्कुल ही गलत आदत है. इसी वक्त तोड़ दीजिए इसे. जब आप सोते हैं आप अपना फोन दूर रखिए, चार्जिंग पे दूर रखिए. और अगर आपको अलार्म लगाना है फोन पर तो फोन को एयरप्लेन मोड पे रखिए और फिर इट्स ओके टू हैव इट बाय योर साइड. क्या आपको आदत है अपना फोन यहाँ पर अपने दिल के करीब या अपने पॉकेट में यहाँ पर रखकर पूरे दिन घूमने की? ये बहुत गलत आदत है. इसे प्लीज अपने शरीर पर लगाकर मत घूमिए. यू कैन पुट इट इन अ बैग, या जब आप काम कर रहे हैं तो आप अपने पास एक थोड़ी सी दूरी पर टेबल पर रख लीजिए. बट डू नॉट मूव अराउंड द होल डे विद योर फोन इन योर पॉकेट. ब्लैकबेरी मैनुअल, आईफोन मैनुअल में भी लिखा है अपने शरीर और फोन के बीच में अंतर 5/8 इंच जरूर रखिए. इसका ये भी मतलब है कि हम जो ये फोन चिपका कर अपने कान पर लंबी लंबी बातें करते हैं, ये भी गलत है. द सेल फोन कंपनीज खुद आपको बता रही हैं कि कीप अ डिस्टेंस ऑफ 5/8 इंच या 15 मिलीमीटर के डिस्टेंस पर अपना फोन रखिएगा. अक्सर हम फोन कॉल्स अपनी गाड़ी से करते हैं कि चलो हम बैठे हैं तो ये वक्त हम अपना इस्तेमाल कर लें और सेल फोन पर फोन करते रहते हैं. ये भी गलत बात है। जब आप गाड़ी में होते हैं, जब आप ट्रेन में होते हैं, जब आप एलिवेटर में होते हैं, तो ये जो एलिवेटर है या ट्रेन है, ये जो मेटल की शीट है जो आपके इर्द गिर्द है, इट एक्ट्स लाइक अ माइक्रोवेव ओवन। तो ये जो रेडियो वेव्स हैं ये वहां पर टकरा कर वापस आती हैं, एंड दैट इंटेंसिफाइज रेडिएशन इनसाइड द एलिवेटर, इनसाइड द कार, इनसाइड अ ट्रेन। क्या आपको महसूस होता है कि जब आप लंबी बात करते हैं सेल फोन पर तो आपके कान गर्म हो जाते हैं? इसका ये मतलब है कि ये जो रेडियो वेव्स आपके फोन से जा रही हैं, ये आपके कान के जो एरिया है, ये पूरा स्किन, ये सॉफ्ट टिश्यूज, ये उनको हीट कर रही हैं। इट्स लाइक अ माइक्रोवेव इफेक्ट। तो प्लीज कीप योर कॉल्स शॉर्ट। अगर आपको लंबी बात करनी है तो बेस्ट इज गेट अ वायर्ड हेडसेट लाइक दैट, ठीक है, ताकि आपका फोन आपसे थोड़ा दूर रहे और आप अपनी बात कर सके। वायर्ड हेडसेट, ब्लूटूथ नहीं। अगर आपके पास चॉइस है, लैंडलाइन है, तो सबसे बेस्ट आप अपना सेल फोन हटा दीजिए और लैंडलाइन से फोन करिए। अगर आप फोन ना करें और टेक्स्ट करें तो दैट विल बी इवन बेटर। एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात, अपना फोन बच्चों को मत दीजिए, खेलने के लिए भी नहीं। एक बच्चे जो हैं उनकी ये जो हड्डी होती है ये बहुत ही पतली और नाजुक होती है। तो ये जो रेडियो वेव्स हैं जो सेल फोन के लिए इस्तेमाल होते हैं, दे ट्रैवल थ्रू योर चाइल्ड्स ब्रेन। सो since we are not sure of the long term effects of EMF radiation, it is better to be safe than be sorry. So please अपने बच्चों को फोन मत दीजिए। जब आपके फोन पर सिग्नल वीक हो तो तब फोन का इस्तेमाल मत कीजिए, क्योंकि उस वक्त आपका फोन बहुत रेडिएट कर रहा है। उस वक्त वो रेडियो वेव जोरों से एंटेना को ढूंढ रही हैं सो दैट यू गेट कनेक्टिविटी। ऐसे वक्त पर जबकि आपका सिग्नल लो है, आप अपने फोन को प्रेफरेबली इस्तेमाल मत कीजिए। सो ये थे कुछ डूज एंड डोंट्स, अपना लीजिए एंड रिड्यूस योर एक्सपोजर टू रेडियो वेव एक्टिविटी फ्रॉम योर सेल फोन्स।
Do you have any comments on suggestions she made, and maybe you want to add some more things about that?
So I would just like to end by first of all thanking you once again, Johan, thanking all the people who have supported me in this journey of 10 years, starting from Juhi to my teammates who were there before and who are presently with me, like Nilima Basale, the doctors, Dr. Ashish Mehta, Dr. Divya Prabhat, Dr. Anand Gokani, Dr. Saxena from Delhi, and on the technical side, I have Mr. Anuj Jain and Dr. Professor Girish Kumar. I don't know how many people I have to thank, but I have to thank a lot of people, both in India and abroad. Dr. Darius Lezinski, Dr. Devra Davis, Theoram, and Mark Arazi in France, and also we have the Dr. Magda Havas in Canada. So I would like to now end by quoting Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. Many people, especially ignorant people, want to punish you for speaking the truth, for being correct, for being you. Never apologize for being correct or for being years ahead of your time. If you're right and you know it, speak your mind. Speak your mind. Even if you're a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. Thank you very much to all of you.
And again, my hearty thanks to you, Mr. Munshi, for coming on and doing this for our audience as well. The live stream wasn't successful from my side, but I will be uploading this on my international channel as well as the channel in India, so that we can reach more Indians and help to awaken them with respect to the risks surrounding EMFs. I'll surely be more than happy to have you on, like you suggested, for another time. Do probably a session just catered to some individual topics that you brought up, like just the 5G one or just the one concerning the regulations. However you want to do it, but my message to the audience would just be that despite his age and despite most of his life journey having been passed behind him, Mr. Munshi has still put in a lot of work in doing his best in order to really do something and take some actionable steps surrounding this. And from my perspective, the risk and the grave threat that we face in the future is really urgent. So if someone as old and as committed as Mr. Munshi can do it, I would say the younger generation has a lot to learn and be inspired from a character like this. So again, my heartiest appreciation for all the work you've done, and thank you so much for coming on and giving me your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Johan. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for joining, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.